This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. The content of this video and all other videos on this channel are the opinions of the creator only and do not constitute legal, trading, investment, or financial advice of any kind. Investing carries a high level of risk and the majority of retail clients lose money. Do not invest in capital unless you understand the risks and you are prepared to lose it all. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and I'm just going to let you know right now, I don't have a great deal to say today. I am, however, going to speak anyway, and there's not going to be a great deal of finance content. We will look at some Bitcoin charts and just point at the obvious, but I'm really just going to be repeating myself. So don't say I didn't warn you ahead of time. Yesterday, I kind of made this passing joke or comment about 15 boosters, and I was having a look at some of the comments, and I really was surprised. I was quite shocked at how polarizing this topic still is. And so I felt compelled to speak on this because there are two sides to this, right? We'll call it the people that opted in and the people that opted out. And so if you chose to opt into this and you stand by that decision, that's your prerogative. But I would respectfully ask that those people do not demonize the people that chose to opt out, because opting out of this was actually probably one of the most contrarian trades of all time. The people that opted out faced extreme pressure socially, culturally. They were threatened with their employment. Many people lost their jobs because they didn't want to opt into this thing. People suffered financially. People weren't allowed to see their children and their loved ones. They weren't allowed to travel. They were told they wouldn't be allowed to take part in society and go to restaurants and pubs. And so if you opted into this, I would respectfully ask that, like I said, you don't demonize people that showed a great deal of courage and took the most contrarian trade of all time. But I'm also here to speak to those people that opted out. If you decided to opt out of this, I understand that you may well have a great deal of resentment and hatred towards the tyranny that was put on you. I'm sure if you opted out, you fell out with family members. I'm sure some of you lost your jobs. I'm sure people continuously told you you were the problem. I'm sure they labeled you as all kind of anti this and anti that. And I understand that you probably deep down carry a lot of hatred and resentment towards those people. But to you guys, I respectfully ask that we perhaps frame this with a little bit more compassion, okay? We don't need to be attacking people that made their decision and stand by their decision and telling them things like they're stupid or their IQ's low. It's not helpful to be pointing at them and calling them NPCs and bots or anything like that. And in fact, with a little bit of compassion and a little bit more thinking, I think it's quite clear, at least from my observations, that a lot of people made that decision out of panic and fear. A lot of people were told they couldn't ever see their children again, and they went and did whatever they did, right? And there are an awful lot of people that opted into this, that stand by their decision, and that's fine. But there are also, keep in mind, an awful lot of people that had 1, 2, 3, and then suddenly went, whoa, 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 I think I might have made a mistake. I actually don't think I wanted that. I think I perhaps got tricked or fooled, or perhaps I made a decision that was a bit rash, and now I regret that decision. And again, I want to speak and ask respectfully that we have a little bit of compassion here. How would you feel if you made a panic decision, okay, had 1, 2, or 3 of these things, and then come to the realization, actually, you didn't really want to do that? The last thing you need is people telling you you're dumb, you've got a low IQ. Every single one of us in life has made a bad decision, has made a decision we come to regret later in life, whether it was pertaining to this or not. And so please don't demonize people, regardless of whether you opted in or opted out. Unless you are a perfect human, then perhaps it would be wise to think before we start casting stones. And one last point I want to make on this is I see a lot of people that think somehow opting in or out of this thing is correlated with IQ and intelligence. And I can tell you for sure, it is not, okay? It is not. I know people that are very, very, very intelligent, highly educated, very, very well-established careers, and they opted in. And equally, I know plenty of people that are, and I say this with love, complete idiots, okay? I'm talking people that can barely read and write that immediately said, no, 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 that's not for me. Okay, so I can tell you for sure, this thing is not correlated to IQ. It is not correlated to book smarts. And so again, I suggest that calling people idiots or telling them they're low IQ because they made a decision is really not helpful. We are all one, okay? So how about a little love? How about a little compassion for your fellow souls? And I apologize for making such a kind of passing statement about this. I really did not expect it to be such a polarizing topic. But and again, forgiveness is a huge part of this, okay? I know if you opted out and you were demonized and you lost your job and you lost your income and you weren't allowed to see family members, I know that it's going to be very, very easy for you to say, yeah, well, never forgive, never forget, okay? But that only harms you. That only harms you. You have to forgive, you have to grow, and you have to move on from this, understanding that you took the most contrarian trade of all time, but that does not give you the right to forever hold a resentment and a hatred to your fellow souls. And whilst this camel is waffling this morning because there's nothing to say about markets, I found this and I thought I would share this with you because this gave me, I was pondering this all morning when I saw this, okay? So Raoul Paul come out and said his main crypto bets are, and then a bunch of altcoins. And Saylor replies, Bitcoin misses you, Rao. To which this part blew my mind. I love Bitcoin, he says, and 1000% believe in it and its future, but my job is optimal capital allocation, and at this point in life, that means aggressive risk taking, which is what I do for a living. I'm not as rich as you. Now, this made me feel incredibly weird, a little bit sad, and the first thing I thought here is comparison is the thief of joy. This is quintessentially the thief of joy right here. Looking at a billionaire and saying, well, compared to this guy that buys $1 billion of Bitcoin every 15 or 20 days, whatever it is, I'm poor. This shows to me a complete lack of awareness. This guy is richer than almost everyone. He lives in the Cayman Islands, pays no tax. He's an ex-Goldman executive. He probably makes hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of mil a month from his Real Vision subscription model. If I do 2 million a month, okay, divided by, let's say he charges 50 a month. I don't know how much he charges, but let's say he charges $50 a month. That means he only needs 40,000 people to subscribe to his Real Vision model to be doing 2 million a month. To be doing 200,000 a month, he only needs to have 4,000 people pay $50 a month for Real Vision. Now, I don't know how much he charges. I don't know how many clients he's got, but I would imagine those kind of numbers are completely unattainable to most people, right? To over 95% of the population, they are never going to be able to earn 200 to 2 mil a month. Not to mention, if he's a macro investor, which he is, of course, and he's got all this history in banks, which pay typically higher salaries, and he's been investing all this time, and he was early to Bitcoin and early to Ethereum and early to Solana, wouldn't he stand to have an enormous net worth? And yet, all he can do is paint himself into this little hole of, oh, I'm poor compared to Michael Saylor. And the reason I point this out today is not to pick on Rao at all. It's to simply say that we are all susceptible to this. No matter what your circumstances, you are richer than someone else. No matter how poor you think you might be, you are definitely richer than a lot of people on this earth. And if you come from a place of, I'm 60 odd years old, again, I don't know how old he is. He's probably 50 to 60 years old, I'm guessing. And he thinks that now is the time in his life to be hyper aggressive and hyper risk taking. I think this guy's just about old enough to be my dad. And already I'm at the stage in my life where I'm thinking about taking less and less risk. Already I am going through an existential crisis. I'm wondering why I put so much time into YouTube when I could just be sailing off into the sunset, enjoying time with my wife and dog, having a bunch of kids. And that is simply because I do not look over the fence. I don't look at Michael Saylor and say, well, I'm never going to be able to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Instead, I look at where I was a number of years ago. I look at how poor I have been in the past, how poor I grew up relative to today. And I am incredibly grateful to know that my next door neighbors will not have to run the washing machine for my kids the way that we used to have to take our clothes next door because my mum couldn't afford to wash our clothes. That's how poor I grew up. And so every day I thank God that I never have to go back to that. Am I ever going to own something like $10 billion worth of Bitcoin? No, I can tell you that for sure. I don't even want to try. But if I was to sit here and look at these people and say, well, I haven't got $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, okay, you could see very quickly how this could lead me to be all in altcoins, taking excessive risk. And so looking over the fence, looking at other people, I would suggest to you guys is not the way to do it. Be eternally grateful for the things you have. Even the fact you have running clean water in your house most probably puts you ahead of about a third of the planet. And once again, I've never seen a better example of comparison being the thief of joy. I can also tell you from experience, there are some huge air pockets when it comes to wealth, okay? If you have, let's say, no money, then earning 20k a year will vastly increase your quality of life. If you earn 20 to 30k a year, which is national average in this country, or let's call it 50 to 60k US, then doubling your salary or tripling your salary will indeed double and triple your quality of life. But once you get to, I don't know, 4 or 5 times the average annual salary, there's a huge air pocket, right? Earning 150 to 200k a year or earning 600, 700k a year makes absolutely no difference to your quality of life. There's this huge air pocket here. And then again, once you get above, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 mil net worth, your quality of life will change drastically compared to all other levels. But between 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 mil, there's absolutely no difference to your quality of life whatsoever. So there's all these huge air pockets, right? If you've got no money, having some money is definitely better. If you've got some money, having a double or triple that is definitely better. But for most people, I think they spend so much time focused on getting to some huge obscene number with a bunch of zeros at the end. And you'll realize once you get about halfway there that absolutely nothing has changed for a very, very long time. So again, be very grateful for what you've got. And also if you're 60, not financial advice, but I would suggest to you, you don't need to be aping altcoins. If anything, I would be looking into a permanent portfolio, de-risking, looking to reduce volatility, those kind of things. But again, not financial advice. You do you, of course. So I promised you I was going to waffle today. I have indeed waffled. And that's largely speaking because there's not a great deal to say about Bitcoin. This September so far has been one of the best performing Septembers ever for Bitcoin, currently up over 9.3%. Again, I draw on this thing from CryptoCon here that showed we were indeed apparently repeating what we did in 2023, albeit 1 month ahead of schedule. This told us to be open to seeing a bullish September. Things can change and they can change quickly, but so far this thing looks very much like it's in play. I am starting to wonder if a bullish October is perhaps a little crowded. Everyone seems to think this is consensus, and markets often like to move to harm the most amount of participants. However, if this thing is going to continue to play, then as you can see, we are working on a breakout before then grinding higher all through the next month. And remember as well, as we approach major tops, the herd can actually be correct for a while. It's at the inflection points, it's at the major lows and the major highs where being a contrarian is the best posture, but there are chunks in the middle where the herd can remain right for some time. Very nice work here from Tony the Bull. Take a look at the schematic. Okay, we get this channel, we go 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 with a fake out, and then up into 5 to throw over the top of the channel. If we were to do this now, okay, 1 into 2, 3 into 4 with a fake out and a recovery, then we would expect a brief throw over into 5, which would put us above 150k. Interestingly enough, my red squiggle here, which is of course just an arbitrary red squiggle, doesn't look too unreasonable. It just kind of looks like a slightly steeper version of this 3 wave, and it kind of matches the schematic here. If this was to happen, okay, notice this is still a top before the end of the year. So I know a lot of people will be saying, no way, no way, no way. But if this actually comes to fruition and it plays something like this, this would fit the base case hypothesis. So wild times to be alive. There is still work to do. Okay, we have so far made a higher high. Let's get into the charts now. So there it is, the higher high above this prior high from here. So far, we now have, let's zoom out a bit so we can see what's going on. We've got a higher low, okay? Low, higher low, as I'm sure you're aware. Then we've got high, and now for the first time in a long time, we've got a higher high. For me to say that we have actually got a chance at seeing new all-time highs, at seeing a run to 100k plus, we do need to clear this downward slope in red at the top. Okay, we definitely need to clear that. Just because we've got a higher high here does not mean that we couldn't make it up to this trend line and reject violently. That is absolutely possible, and that is something I am on guard for. Do I expect us to hot knife this? No, not at all. I think we are almost certainly going to have some kind of rejection here, some kind of sharp sell-off. I'm also noting that depending on which count you use, I like this count, meaning this was a half cycle inversion. We reset the count from here, and this will actually be a half cycle low on day 30. So I like the idea from here that we perhaps see a couple more days, hit this, reject into that half cycle low, and then off we go again for the remainder of the cycle, meaning this half cycle low here would then see another 30 days out, and that would give us our 60-day cycle low somewhere around the 5th of November. So we'd probably be looking for something like this. Maybe that's a little ambitious, or maybe it's entirely reasonable. We're going to find out. But the good news is we have slowly but surely been creating a change in behavior, a change in market structure. We've got higher lows and higher highs. I am by no means celebrating this. I am by no means stating that 100k is programmed, but this is the best chance we've had for about 6 months. So very, very, very exciting times. Is gold working on a swing high before that next daily cycle low? I think it probably is. So I've choked my stop up. We'll give it a little bit of space just because it's such a strong uptrend. Either way, we're going to be locking in some profit here and then looking to see what comes out of that next cycle low. I see all of Twitter has gone uber bullish on silver, which makes me think if gold's cycle is due to top soon, then maybe that was a trap, a double top with this high, and now we're going to come and have a quick flush, find that weekly cycle low and go. So I'm keeping an eye on silver as well. Also keeping a very close eye on the dollar. We are so close to losing this 100 level. If I draw a let's put a box in. Right around here, where the box is right around 100. If we can break down from there, I would think we get a very, very violent, sharp snap to the downside. That will force our cycle lows. And of course, the big thing is if we can get a violent snap off this major key 100 level, then we will, of course, see risk and everything else go to the moon. So looking forward to seeing if we can get that. Looks like yields are starting to complete their counter trend wobble here, or counter trend bounce before resumption of the primary downtrend, so that's good. Oil is still playing ball, right? It's cycle low, probably about to fail this daily cycle now and then head down into that weekly and 4-year cycle low. Again, none of this speaks to inflation being sticky. None of this speaks to a recession not being just around the corner. And the stock market still refusing to give a cycle low. As you can see, absolutely no clear sign of it just yet. We are now currently on something akin to day 38. So you would be thinking in the next few sessions we are going to get a quick shakeout, something like this, and then we can find that cycle low, add one final time, and look to take this thing to the ultimate top. Russell 2K still hanging around in this kind of area, this pocket, there's no man's land, so we'll see what happens there. And the VIX still contained under resistance, still looking to get a little bit more of a push down, and then I think it's time to get some hedges on. I'm noticing MicroStrategy, I'm just going to cover one crypto equity today. MicroStrategy looks like it has made its first repair and is now thinking about breaking out of the top. Now, MicroStrategy is a big component to the Russell 2K. It's quite a heavy weighting in the Russell 2K, so this could well, if it can break out and explode from here, help drive that upside in the Russell 2K. It's funny to me that some of the biggest accounts on YouTube are talking about the Russell 2K having to move into expansion in order for Bitcoin to escape. But the reality is it's probably going to be Bitcoin that drags the Russell 2K up. Either way, if we can get out of here, this should indeed be a nice long opportunity on a final repair. You could have cheated an early entry here. I didn't want to play that because I still think there's a risk that MicroStrategy could reject here. And if it does, it could be quite violent. So either way, slowly but surely, these crypto-related equities are making repairs. In the members section, we've been slowly but surely adding more and more of those, and those look pretty strong. So happy days. And it is Friday already. Of course, I'll be back tomorrow with the weekend's deep dive as always, and the level 3 members deep dive. In the meantime, have a fantastic weekend. I hope you're doing well in life. And until next time, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.